Welcome to the Sencast. My name is Dale Pickles, Managing Director of B Squared and the host of the Sencast. If this is your first time listening to the Sencast, then welcome. The aim of this podcast is really simple. We want to reach lots of people and help everyone learn, including me, more about special educational needs and disability. This week we're discussing supporting neurodiverse students and why schools need to be open to change. My guest this week is Rebecca Clapcott from Awesome Archie. Awesome Archie is a neuro-affirming non-profit founded by a mum, Rebecca, and son, Archie. And Archie was on the podcast a couple of weeks ago. Since early 2020, Awesome Archie have written 5 books that are donated to local schools and currently being used by the University Hospitals Dorset charity to both advocate and educate. Rebecca has 16 years of lived autism experience as a parent, years of one-on-one experience as a TA, and late awakening into her own neurotype. Rebecca is proud to share what she's learned. The Sencast is produced by us here at B Squared. Now, everyone knows we help schools to show the small sets of progress pupils with SEND make across a wide range of abilities and ages. But do you know about our Autism Progress Framework? This is our framework for helping to profile a pupil's autism, how it impacts them, and how we can support them. It is based on certs and looks at communication, social interaction, emotional regulation, and flexible thinking. Autism Progress also includes a wide range of strategies to support those pupils. Visit the B Square website or click on the meeting link in the show notes to book a meeting with me to take you through our Autism Progress framework and our assessment software and how it can help you. Now, let's get on with the podcast. In this week's show, we're discussing supporting neurodiverse students and why schools need to be open to change. My guest this week is Rebecca Clapcott from Awesome Archie. Awesome Archie is a neuro-affirming non-profit founded by a mum, Rebecca, and son, Archie, team. Since early 2020, Awesome Archie have written 5 books that are donated to local schools and currently being used by the University Hospitals Dorset charity to both advocate and educate. Rebecca has 16 years of lived autism experience as a parent, years of one-to-one experience, and a late awakening into her own neurotype. And Rebecca is proud to share what she's learnt. Archie, being autistic, having ADHD and Tourette syndrome, gives the nonprofit a real-life insight into the challenges faced by so many. Welcome to the show, Rebecca.
Oh, thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
Now, you're allowed on this podcast. Last time we were podcasting, you kind of butted into your son's podcast.
I did. I do that. 16 years of that. It's hard. I lasted 3 minutes.
3 minutes before you butted in. Yeah. It's quite entertaining.
Yeah, sorry, everybody.
Due to the lack of training in ITT and ECT, I think that kind of some teachers have a fear, lack of understanding, or compassion for neurodiversity. It doesn't exist or whatever. Yeah. They don't believe in it.
Yeah.
Simply due to lack of understanding, training, and experience.
Yeah. I mean, it's really difficult because I come from a background of loving education and loving educators. My own school experience as a child was a negative one, which is why it was a bit of a surprise when I decided I wanted to kind of do something within education, in the sense that I wasn't understood. I was the naughty, chatty kid. I wasn't supported, and I did miserably with my exam results. On paper, I wasn't going to go anywhere or do anything. And it was only actually when we had our children and our son, Archie specifically, who was our firstborn neurodivergent child, and we saw how the system was working, or should I say not working for him, it kind of awakened this need to learn a little bit more and understand, well, why does the Senko not do what's on the EHCP? Why does the teacher not recognise that my son needs to move? He's got ADHD. This is not me criticising the Senko or the teacher. I want to be very clear about that. But I was very critical of the lack, like you say, of the understanding, and what training they did have was really outdated. And even the terminology, the language was not correct. So I wanted to try and change that and bridge that gap a little bit.
So there's a question I'm going to ask, but I've got to ask. When we say firstborn neurodivergent, it sounds like they literally came out with that label.
They did, yeah.
Oh, he's not a boy, he's not a girl, he's neurodivergent.
Actually, he literally did come out with a label. he was the most phenomenal baby. It was like he came out screeching, waving. He was early crawling, early talking, doing all the things that actually is typically, in the old fashioned days when you would automatically label perhaps a delayed speaker as autistic. Archie was completely the opposite. He was just coming out reciting the encyclopedia.
Do you remember the old percentiles?
Oh,
God.
pointless.
I was always
graph.
really proud of my children being on the 90-something percentile.
Yeah.
Basically, generally meant they're autistic.
Yeah. Yeah. What is that? Again, it's like, at what point in our life are we supposed to deviate from what the line in the graph says?
I just find it's like, okay, so we've got these children on the 90-something percentile, and all these children on the really low percentile. It's like, cool, but the 90s, there's probably a reason they're miles up there. There's something not, I'm not saying wrong.
Yeah.
Different. Yeah, that actually, in this area, they're miles ahead, and they get something that's miles behind. What is this? My daughter, who got diagnosed with autism it became an issue in year 7, but got diagnosed year 10.
Mm-hmm.
She refused to walk without holding hands.
Okay.
So she knew she could walk. But if you let go of her hands, she just stopped and looked at you going. And then I remember one day getting really fed up and walking around a children's soft play area.
Mm-hmm.
And a child the same height as her just walked the other way without holding hands.
Mm.
And I remember just looking and watching. And you can see her head just going, he's not holding hands. And she just looked up at me, let go of my hands, put her hands by her side and walked off.
God, I bet that was a moment, wasn't it?
It was just this most, hang on, this is the rule, but I can have a new rule.
Yeah.
I'm doing the new, and it was just this most weird moment that I've known she could walk for months, but she refused to. And then seeing that child made her go, yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
So my question I was going to ask, comment on is, I think there are lots of kind of TAs or people working in education who have gone into it because they weren't supported.
Oh, yeah. 100%.
Because they were unsupported and they're going, I'm not letting that happen again.
Absolutely.
I'm going to be there for those children.
But it's a kind of double-edged sword, because I spend a lot of my time volunteering in mainstreams. So the reason I do mainstreams is because with our professional and personal experience, the specialist provisions that we've been into and seen are so beautifully educated, supported, funded. So for my mind, Archie, I've got no concerns. I literally send Archie in. I know Archie is understood, catered for, educated. Loved is not appropriate in an educational setting, but you know what I'm saying.
Yes.
He's just valued is a better term. Whereas mainstream school, even to this day, a lot of the TAs that will come in are completely unaware of the job they're signing up for. So many of the TAs that I have seen over the last 10 years have been interviewed for a job to be a teaching assistant. Now, many, I would say most of those, they're not teaching assistants. They're one-to-one support. That's a different job role entirely. So how can they get good at the job when they didn't even know they were applying for the job in the first place? And they can't deliberately advertise for a one-to-one because it could be potentially a different pay grade, or it could be should be a different skill set. And this is what I feel is the issue. And yet those TAs who are the most successful at one-to-ones are either going to be neurodivergent themselves or have that background of a child, neurodivergent, I know, a family member, a cousin, whatever. They've got that background experience. They know how to communicate, and they know that it's not their job to teach. It's their job to support the child so the teacher can teach, but support that child to learn in that child's way.
Yeah. Is that a thing? I know what you mean, but it's like, this is the role. Oh, it's a teaching assistant.
Mm-hmm.
You got like an idea of maybe you saw one when you were a child was at school. Okay, it's just going in and reading with the kids and just sitting there and getting things. Actually, no, one-on-one is a very different role.
Yeah.
And those, as you said, I think will succeed. They have a passion. There's a reason they're succeeding. They have a want to do things. And I know from going around all the schools, there are so many amazing TAs.
Oh, there are.
But they probably weren't like that the day one.
No.
The job they went into is not maybe what they thought. But through actually just that effort and that passion to make a difference, they have become the amazing TAs they are today.
Yeah. And I think it's probably a bold statement to say, So I'll just say it's my opinion. But in my opinion, the best teachers and the best TAs are those that are empathetic. And it might not be that they have necessarily a wealth of knowledge about neurodivergency. They don't have to have a degree in neuroscience, but they do succeed if they have a love for individuality and a want to educate all, not a want to educate those who are going to get the answers right and they're easy to teach. They want to see progress across the board in whatever those stages may be. Progress is progress.
Yeah. I think you can find in schools, and I'm not going to, but I could generalize quite easily that in a specialist school, you are educating a child. So you will do what you need to educate that child. Whereas in the mainstream, you're getting through a curriculum.
Absolutely.
Now, there are lots of schools in mainstream that is not the case. So I've learned not to generalize that. There are schools who are going, actually, we want all our children to succeed. Now, some have that on their values as a term, which I don't really believe in. And there are those who really believe it. There are those schools where you see the teachers, the staff going above and beyond.
Yeah.
And they are phenomenal. But there are lots of schools out there which are still kind of getting through the curriculum, SATs results, and the idea of every child's the same. And well, I can do this, or he can do this, so you can. And that kind of really simple, everyone's the same kind of mentality is there. And I always find it interesting when they can see a child is different in one way, and it might be a way they're successful or they're really good. They've got that interest. So when you start talking about this, suddenly this child is telling you everything more and more about, and you're going, where is this coming from? And when they struggle in something else, it's, oh, well, you can do that.
Yeah.
And it's that idea of a spiky profile, which is a phrase I've been saying 20 odd years.
Yes.
It's still a new concept to some people.
It's, I would say, to most people in mainstream education. And that is, again, a bold statement. I'm not here to be critical. I'm not normally so negative. But so part of what we do with Awesome Archie is a free back to basics training approach. Now, the reason we do that is not to step on anyone's toes. We're not here to take away from fully accredited CPD training and all that. But we also understand that, particularly in our local area, the funding simply isn't there. So even if they want to get a trainer in, you could be looking at a couple of £1,000s to get adequate training. That's a lot of TA wage. So I don't criticise them for not having that training, but I do criticise them for not spending the time, because there is a wealth of free information. These podcasts, they don't cost anything to listen to. You can literally be sat doing we've had this conversation. You're often in my ear when I'm ironing. It doesn't have to be a sit down learning kind of situation. You could just be driving along, couldn't you? And listening. So we do a very back to basics approach. And in that approach, we talk about things like the terminology that we use so freely and regularly, but so many people, and I'm astonished, stimming. So many TAs will say, and I never, ever criticize them. Good on them. I say, please, if I say something that you don't know, whack your hand up there and then. We'll cover it right there and then. So many TAs will go, what is stimming? And it just makes you realise, how can they spot a child who is stimming, therefore may be overstimulated, therefore may head into a meltdown, therefore you need to step in, if you don't know what stimming is in the first place?
No.
You can't. So what is going to happen is that child's going to stim, get overstimulated, we're going to dysregulate, everything's going to kick off. We've lost a valuable lesson.
It's amazing the terms that even with used actually are kind of in these little tight circles. So if you as a parent going, oh yeah, my child is really different at home to school, he's just really disruptive behaviour, he's so different, no, he's really good at school. And you can have this conversation and everyone looks at you going, oh, you're just a bad parent.
Oh.
Until you say the word masking. Oh, he's masking. Oh, okay, he's probably, and that unlocks something. So saying that one word can unlock something.
Yeah.
But other schools never hear that word. And it's just some of these phrases, if you don't say the word masking, it's bad parenting, he's naughty. That's when you say he's masking. Oh, But how do you know to say that word?
Yeah, exactly.
So you got people who fidget. He won't sit still.
Mm.
Yeah, he's doing this.
He's seeking proprioceptive input. And then all of a sudden, because you sound like you know what you're talking about, they listen to you. And that's lovely if you, like you say, if you know that. But also as well, it's really important to recognize that we now know that so many neurodivergent children, I mean, it's in the genes, right? So how can even a parent spot a child's differences when those differences are normal for them?
Yes.
And this is why I was 34 before I recognised that I wasn't just overly chatty, annoying and a bit weird. Oh, I'm ADHD. Why don't I like socialising? Why do I need things in order? Oh God, I'm autistic. And it hasn't changed anything in the sense that I'm a different person. I'm not. But it's made me be okay with having those differences.
But it's even things like, I know part of the HCP, my sister got asked, would you describe your home life as normal? And my sister's like, this is my first husband, my first three children, my first house I've owned. As far as I'm aware, I'm having a normal life.
Yeah.
I have no idea what it's like compared to anyone else's.
No.
I've never lived in anyone else's lives.
That's right.
I've had my parents when I growing up, and I'm repeating that. So that's normal, is it not?
Yeah.
And some of these phrases of normal or are really kind of strange.
Mm.
And I know we can go into stereotypes, but often when you might even have to, as a Senko, you have to broach the subject that someone's child might be autistic or ADHD.
Which must be a very, I know Simon Tanner was saying, wasn't he, when we spoke to him at the Test Send show.
Yes.
Hello, Simon, I'm on the podcast. Yay! I can't believe it. Sorry. It's that difficult. It's knowing, because it isn't always a positive thing. I wasn't always the person. You know, when Archie got his official diagnosis, he was only 3, but I was utterly heartbroken. I thought, what have I done? I've done something wrong. He's broken. He's not going to achieve this. I'm saying this with shame. It's only now, because I understand and I learned, but I had no need to understand or learn because I wasn't in that situation before. So you can't blame yourself for that.
But also, you're in that situation where you're saying to a parent, yeah, your child's struggling with this, and they're struggling, they can't do this, and they can't sit still, and they're going, right, but that's every child.
Yeah.
Because they were exactly the same, and they're still exactly the same.
Yeah.
And it's because, we've got something to break to you as well.
Yeah. Seeing any similarities here.
But it's that sort of thing, when you go into those conversations with the families, they're not recognising anything different because that's normal, because they're all having the same challenges. When the child's going, oh, it's really horrible at school, why? Because this, well, yeah, that's school.
Yeah.
No, that's not school for everyone.
Yeah.
That's your experience, and that's your child's experience. Maybe because you're both neurodiverse in some way, but it's having those conversations. You think everyone experiences life that way. You think this is normal.
Yeah.
And it's only when you get told, actually that's not normal, your child is struggling and no one else is, that you can get really heartbroken. And then you reflect on your life and go,
yeah, the penny drops. And it's also, I think that's why it's so important that we, like as a generation, change the narrative. Because still at the moment, I mean, although we're so much better, and of course I live my life now with neurodivergent people, I spend my whole time either supporting neurodivergent children or supporting their parents or training staff. So my life, literally, I am in a bit of a neurodivergent bubble. And sometimes I forget that sometimes in the outside world, the way I dress, the way I look, the way I behave, some people are going to look because I'm different to most people. But I think if we all could be of this kind of acceptance that everyone's different, right? So I just think if we were coming to the world now and there were no labels for anything, it was just, you're Dale, you like maths, you're really good at remembering everything in adverts. Kia ora.
I love. I'll be your dog. Anyway.
There you go, proof.
Someone else has just remembered that going, oh my.
I know, yeah. See, you might have awakened something in them, you see? And it shouldn't be oh my God, I'm autistic. This is a nightmare. We should be, oh gosh, that's interesting. I'm autistic. So, and also having the ability to learn about it and find access to help, which we know is very difficult.
So when I podcasted with your son, Archie, which was amazing, I asked him some questions at the end about, and because he talked about how he went into primary, he felt the odd one out.
Oh yeah.
But in a specialist school, he doesn't.
No.
And I said, when you're out and about, how do you feel? And he said, I don't feel as odd one out. I feel not as comfortable as in a specialist school.
No.
But he does feel more comfortable than he was in mainstream school.
Yeah.
And that's that thing about mainstream, this conformity.
Oh, and
that doesn't happen anywhere else in life.
No,
unless you want to join the armed services.
Yes.
But that's a personal
choice. But you wouldn't do that at 5, right? And that's the thing. You wouldn't make that level of decision. And I always try to explain, and I have to say, so we've got some affiliated schools. We're based in the south of England, and we've got some fantastic schools who invite us in. We're so lucky. I'm going to give a shout out to Christchurch Junior and William Gilpin, 2 of our schools that things are not perfect. They can't be in a mainstream education with this level of, or lack of level of support. So no one expects perfection, but those 2 schools in particular continue to try and go above and beyond. Simple things like uniform adaptations. What child who's got a sensory need would want to have a starched white shirt buttoned up to the top with a tie, with a nylon trouser and shoes that are sort of laced up leather? I mean, they're going to want a tracksuit trouser and a T-shirt. That doesn't mean they don't wear uniform. They could wear an adapted uniform. They could have a labelled tracksuit trouser. I'm astonished at the amount of schools that still say, no, this is the uniform. We don't allow for any change. End of.
Do you want to know how many hours a year I wear a buttoned up shirt, buttoned up?
And I will say, you're a successful businessman. So I'm going to say that the way you look and dress clearly doesn't have any lasting impetus in level of business success, right?
Yep.
How many hours? So test send show, that's all day.
Not buttoned up.
Oh, not buttoned up. Buttoned up. Okay, I've no idea.
8
hours?
a year.
8 hours? Why? What are the 8 hours? I'm intrigued.
So before the TS show, a couple of weeks before that,
yeah,
we were at the Nason Awards, which is a black tie event.
Oh, fancy. Yeah.
So I have to have a tie and it buttoned up. So I did that in October, and I've got another awards event coming up in January, fingers crossed.
Oh, what are you?
We're up for 3 awards.
Where?
Bet Awards.
Vote, people, please. Vote.
So sadly you can't, but hopefully we'll see. But for those, it's black tie. We don't do DJ. We're going with the reasonable adjustments. We're wearing suits and we'll be buttoned up and we'll be smart. And I will get there about 7 p.m, buttoned up, and it will finish around midnight or so at some point. So basically, for those 2 events, that is the only time throughout a year I'm wearing a buttoned up shirt done up to the top.
And what difference has that made to you in your career?
Everyone often recognises my quite loud shirts at events.
Fantastic.
It's quite fun, but they're never buttoned up. They're not tucked in.
No.
And often when I go to schools, I'm always hot.
Yeah.
Schools, don't know what it's about you schools. You like things really hot.
Yeah,
it's
and also
really odd.
There's a lot of bending down, moving around. You've got to be comfortable, haven't you?
So in schools, I generally, if you see me in a school, I have a short-sleeved shirt on.
Yeah.
Yeah. I am comfortable. To me, I am meeting the kind of the clothing that people I'm working with.
Yeah.
But this whole thing of you have to wear these uniforms because what? We're not in the 90s. We're not wearing those big suits. It's not like you're going to be... Remember that scene in The Matrix with the woman in the red dress, everyone with those suits?
Yes.
We're not in that world anymore. People work in T-shirts and trousers or T-shirts and jeans or shirts which aren't buttoned up, which aren't tucked in. That's how the world works.
Yeah. And the thing with that drives me crazy is, you can see, like, you get newsletters and things like that from schools. And we had one, I don't know, a couple of years back. I won't say the school because it's not fair, but there was a thing to say, please ensure that every pupil is wearing the correct uniform. We want all our children to appear the same. I don't think I've ever felt so angry about an email in my life. I thought, why do you want my child to look the same as every other child? Like, I get that it's important to have a structure. I get that it's important to have a theme. I also understand, having worked in education, that you can't be having some kids wearing Hugo Boss and others wearing but I just thought, no.
See,
my child sat here ticking with Tourette's and you think a uniform's the thing they're going to pick him out for? Really?
My response would be, this is sort of thing, because I'm now at that point where I just don't care.
Yeah, good.
Even my kids I'll be like, I'd reply to that going, please can we not? I took the wrong kid home last Easter and I didn't notice for 2 weeks.
Oh my God, I wish I'd have known you then.
That's the sort of thing. There's something about my head works. It just comes up with, why are you saying that? What would be a really, I just kind of think it's like, why do you want them to look the same? Not the same.
No. And but again, they sort of doubled down with it.
I'll sit there and go, okay, that's fine. But I want my child, if my child hasn't done as well as someone else, I want their grades improved because they look the same, so they should get the same.
Oh my God, yeah.
I would just go with it. I would just go with that and they'd hate me for it.
Yeah. Well, I just ignored it. I thought I'm not gonna get into there are some I have to fight. Obviously, being a SEN mum, I spend my life fighting for, or advocating for. It's tiresome. So there are battles that I just can't be bothered to pick. That was one of them. However, I did ignore it. My daughter does have 2 ear piercings on each ear. And that's because her mother is covered in, you can't see me, obviously, but I'm covered in piercings. I'm covered in tattoos. I've got bright red hair. It is almost ridiculous to think that my child would not be that person, really, because this is what she's grown up with. However, I do abide by the rules. It's PE day. We must take our piercings out. It's a safety issue. So I'm not one of these parents that's deliberately trying to break the rules. I just don't see why it matters if she's got 2 earrings in, not one. I don't get it.
My daughter's school, secondary, has finally done that thing of you can wear like the black trainery smart shoes. And my daughter's always had like the little slip-on shoes that everyone all wears, and she's always hated them. And she went, and her shoes fell apart because they're small. They're not built well.
They're like, what, those ballet? Are they the ballet pump things?
Yeah, that sort of thing.
They're not good for your feet either.
And she phoned me up. She said, I think my shoes are starting to fall. I think it's new shoes. I went, yeah. She phoned me up the next day at 3:00 going, can you pick me up from school? My shoes have fallen apart and they're held together with sellotape. And I was like, yeah, I'm leaving work. Literally 3:00, left work, whatever was on, it was just gone. I had to go pick it up. And we went into the town centre and bought shoes. And she went, actually, can I get, we looked at the same ones. She went, actually, can I get, I went, are you allowed? She went, yeah. And I trusted my daughter because she knows if she doesn't wear the right shoes, she'll get detention.
Yeah.
So she's
not going to want that.
Yes. So therefore, if my daughter says she can wear those shoes, I know she can. So I said, yeah, if that's what you want. Literally a week later, she went, oh, this is so... And I think she's happier at school because her feet are more comfortable.
Yeah.
She just seems happier walking to and from school. And it's little things, and I know it is little things, but those little things, if my daughter is more comfortable, she's going to learn more.
Well, we've spoken, haven't we, before about spoon theory. And I know spoon theory was...
There is no spoon?
Well, it's nice. We're back to you've got a matrix obsession today. I love it. It is good, actually. I do agree with you. But there's this thing where, and I can see my children's spoons dropping. So it's one less battle they've got to pick. Because if they're already masking in class, if they're already sat a little bit uncomfortable, let's say they're overstimulated, they, for whatever reason, haven't got ear defenders, whether it's because they don't want to wear them or they're not available to them or they don't know they need them, right? They're already dropping spoons left, right and centre before that nearly impossible maths equation has hit their desk. Something as simple as letting them wear something that means they feel comfortable might mean they've got enough spoons left in their armoury to go, all right, I'll do it. They're not. But again, I think that comes from experience and understanding. Somebody who isn't used to a neurodivergent pupil, particularly one who isn't diagnosed because there isn't a name to it, so they can't research it, will assume that child's being overreactive. Why have they sort of kicked off because of a maths question?
See, my logic says is you pick the battles that are important.
Yeah.
Earrings, safety, PE.
Yes.
Without a doubt.
Yes.
I'm going to pick that battle and I'm going to win it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Whether your skirt has pleats, whether how see-through your tights are. I've got daughters, that's the reason I'm picking on those. Or it's not wrong, whatever it is, yeah. What is the impact? Why are you picking that battle? And interesting, someone said, I don't get it. there are things that if I can see a rule is stupid, I will not follow that rule.
Yeah, I'm the same. Unfortunately. Yeah, I'm the same.
I think it's a neurodiverse thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
If that's the rule, if it's stupid, I just won't follow it. Yeah. So there are rules. I'm going, why are you picking fights on small things? And someone said that some people, they need to know they're winning.
Oh, okay.
So they will pick the fight on the little things.
Because they can win that one.
By winning it gives them a sense of, I'm right, you're wrong, you will listen. But it's this opposing sort of view that if we're on the small stuff, then the big stuff will definitely follow. But there's the opposing view, the neurodiverse, of that makes no sense, this rule.
And
why?
But
you'll say with neurodiverse, generally, if you kind of skip the small rules which make different and just say, look, these are non-negotiables.
Absolutely.
Then we will not have a problem.
And that's what we have to do with our son Herbie all the time. So Herbie is an ADHD with a PDA profile. And so for anyone who's got any kind of background knowledge of PDA, which, by the way, Zencast has helped me so much with, so thank you, because until we kind of learned a little bit about it, we had no idea. We thought he was just defiant and actually verging on just rude. We've now realised he's not at all. This gorgeous young man is living in fight or flight. And it's taught us to, like you say, to pick the things that matter. So we have, and I do take this into the classrooms with me, I have non-negotiables for all the children that I support and my children at home. So the school non-negotiables are, you do not hit. That could be yourself or me. You do not throw something unless it's at a ball on the field, or if we're deliberately using the punching bag, then go for it. And if the fire alarm goes off or we have the emergency drill, I don't care if you're kicking and screaming, we're going out to the fire safety point or we're hiding under the desk, because those are life-saving non-negotiables. What pencil colour they use to correct their English, I could not give a rat's bottom about. And so I sit there going, when they say, make sure you've got your green pen, I can't help it. I'll say, she'll use a different colour pen. You can bet your bottom dollar that my neurodivergent student will do more work because they're doing it in a different colour pen.
I see on social media as teachers being told off by the head of department for marking in the wrong colour.
Oh, for God's
sakes.
Like, it's
really,
exhausting, isn't it? As if they've not got enough to do.
The only time the colour pen you use really matters is when you're filling out a form and it says, please use black ink.
Because it's got to be scanned.
Yes.
Absolutely. Again,
after that,
non-negotiable. That's a rule that has a reasonable expectation as to why.
And it's when someone goes, oh no, because we don't like doing red because it's too negative.
Yeah.
Or then you go, no, we do pink for positive, green, whatever it is. I'm going, cool. Generally, what I've written helps them see if it's positive or negative. If I write well done in the negative pen, they're not going to go, oh, they're being sarcastic.
And also, we're again assuming that everybody would look at a red colour as negative. What if you're like my husband and red's their favourite colour?
Is that why your hair's red?
Yes, it is, of course. Yeah. No, it really isn't. I will say it is because he's going to be listening to this. No, this is just boredom. But no, no, but you know what I mean? We're still assuming because perhaps the higher ups think that red is negative. Well, no, it's not negative for everybody. What if it's positive? I mean...
To me, red is a safety.
Yes.
Red, stop.
Yes.
Red, emergency stop button.
Yes.
Red is a safety emergency stop.
So that's a positive for you, right?
Yeah.
You know that will keep you safe if you've got... There you are. So why is red negative? Who? We'll have to Google that. Who did it? Let's let them come on and talk about it.
Probably when somebody started using traffic. I wonder if you look back, I wonder if it's like when we started using the traffic light system for rating things, and red became the stop.
Oh God,
that red basically inferred negative from that.
And when they do the survey in the shops, it's red for not happy or satisfied.
It's because yes.
So
red is probably purely negative, purely for that rag rating system.
But then, do they think when kids leave school having never used a red pen, that they're still not going to recognise the red symbols outside?
I need to ask WH Smith what their sales on red pens are like compared to other pens.
Exactly.
Because everyone's scared of picking up a red pen.
We sound like we're on commission.
But it's just...
Yeah, I don't know. I don't understand it. It's those...
But it's that simplifying things that I find with lots of things, even like zones of regulation, we have green, yellow and red feelings.
Yeah, yeah.
People will see the red as bad. We need to get to green. It's like,
Yeah.
no, red just means it's quite a extreme.
Yeah.
And it might be for what's going on the right zone to be in.
Yeah. Or
But
it's
you've
that
just got to
emergency
be
situation.
careful.
Yeah.
If there is a fire and you're in the green or blue,
Yeah.
there's probably something wrong.
Yeah.
You should be in yellow or red
Yeah.
because you need to be alert. If you're woken up by the fire alarm in your hotel at 3:00 in the morning,
Yeah.
you should be in yellow or red.
Yeah.
You should not be in green.
No.
And you should be, if you're in blue and going, I'm not getting out of bed, that's not safe. You should be.
Yeah.
But again, the idea of the red there is saying it's quite an extreme. So you've got to be kind of careful. You might be like out of control.
Yes. Okay.
So
yeah.
you've got to be careful. So if you're in the red zone because I've wound you up, there is a likelihood you may punch me.
Yes.
But that's not a good choice.
Yeah.
So it's kind of warning that if you're wound up and you're in the red, you kind of just got to maybe take yourself away.
Yeah.
But red is seen as bad. So you sometimes see when people talk about zones of regulation that red is a bad feeling, even though it actually includes excitement.
So that's why they've covered it. So they've clubbed the two together, haven't they?
So it's very simplifiing. Red is bad, green is good.
Yeah. Yeah. But again, we're going back to that generalizing of humanity. I mean, it's not just children. Are we just saying that, like, I haven't got a problem with red or...
But what's interesting is if you ask every neurodiverse child how school makes you feel and you say yellow or red, that somehow is not the problem of the school. That's still the child's problem.
Yeah.
So it's not actually used. It's still, if you rated how children feel about school, and you go yellow, red, school refusers, emotional-based school avoiders, whatever you want to call them, people who are not attending school.
Yeah.
How do you feel about school? Yellow, red. It's somehow still not, okay, we need to change something.
Yeah.
Whereas if you were doing something not in a school and someone said, oh, all our customers are saying red, oh, we need to change something. But somehow it doesn't work like that.
No.
Schools are a constant. But going back to the topic.
Yeah, sorry.
The schools need to be open to change. If
they do.
Children are saying, I have to mask when I'm at school.
Yeah.
If they are saying, I'm not comfortable at school. If they're not learning, the school should be changing.
Yeah.
And as Archie said, not drastically, not huge.
No.
Not reinventing what school is.
No.
Because that's the very reasons cannot happen.
Or taking away from how brilliant teachers are and the patience level and their education and the fact that they are phenomenal at what they do. Yeah, that's not to take that away. Our main problem at the moment, so a lot of our time we have people emailing us trying to Zoom chat because we offer a kind of one-to-one parent support. Our main parent complaint across the board, and there are many, is that they have been made to feel like they're that parent. They have been made to feel like they're overreactive or that they're precious or that they're spoiling their child. They're being made to feel that when they complain, and I don't mean a formal complaint as in put in a big issue, when they've perhaps gone to the reception desk and cried because, let's say, their child was punished using a punishment system that in their EHCP isn't stated. So let's say they were moved down onto a rain cloud. I don't know what school systems do. Some have like a rain cloud. Now, in some children's EHCPs, it will say a kind of graded punishment or reward system does not work for my child. Now, if you've got a staff member who's either new or who is a supply, they might not know that. They might not have read the EHCP. So that parent's not going to think logically. Their kid's going to come out crying and their parent's going to feel upset about that. They're not going to hopefully go in and be cross, but they're definitely going to go in and say, why? It's in the EHCP. Why wasn't this followed? And generally, they don't get an apology. They get a defense. Yeah. And I don't get that. Why didn't they say, I'm so sorry. We hadn't had the time to read the EHCP. This won't happen again. Why is it the defense and not the sorry?
Okay, so I'm going to ask you a question.
Okay.
What does sorry mean to you?
I don't know.
If you said sorry to your husband or your child, what is it? What does that mean?
I suppose it would mean nothing if I didn't change the action.
So are you admitting blame?
Yeah, I would be, yeah. Because if I said, let's say I bought a handbag that I wasn't supposed to, I would say to my husband, I am sorry that I did that. And I'd feel bad about that.
Okay, so that is an intentional thing.
Yeah.
What happens if, let's say, tomorrow morning, your husband is going somewhere, he needs to get up at 6, it's going to be a long day, but it's going to be a really good day for him and he wants to do it.
Yeah.
And let's say you go out drinking tonight, you get home at 2:00 in the morning, you throw up and he has to look after you all night.
You know me so well.
But the reason you did that is you'd had a really bad week.
Yeah.
And kind of weren't maybe quite what things. So yeah. So it wasn't, you didn't plan to get that drunk.
Mm-hmm.
It kind of just happened.
Yeah.
But now you've ruined his day. When you say sorry, are you admitting, is that you saying, actually, I intentionally went out to go get drunk? Or are you saying, I didn't mean for it to happen?
Yeah.
That's the thing.
Yes.
So what does sorry mean? And we had this conversation in our house, or what does sorry mean?
Yeah.
And what I've learned, my kids, what they saw it as. So let's say you were crying.
Yeah.
Yeah. But you fell over.
Yes.
And I'm there. And maybe I pushed, well, it's maybe something, I did something, which is a small part of how you fell over. It's just a small part. But I know in reality you fell over on your own.
Yeah.
But a teacher saw me near you. And they say sorry. It basically, the child won't say sorry. My daughters wouldn't say sorry because that kind of meant what they saw it was. If they say sorry, they're admitting that they pushed you over.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
And it was their fault and they intentionally did it.
Yeah.
And it's that fault, accepting blame and intentionally did it. I think most people here is what they don't want to admit to when they say sorry.
Okay, so they perhaps link the immediate apology with a fault or blame.
Yes. So if they're having to say sorry, they've intentionally not done it.
Right.
They've...
Which is not true.
It's not...
It is not true.
So what we had a whole conversation with sorry is at home is sorry is... I didn't intend to. It wasn't my intention.
Yeah.
But I'm sad that you're feeling sad.
Now what you've just said there, that is what is lacking in the communication from...
But it's that understanding of what sorry means.
Yeah.
Because it basically is what you're saying is, we spent years fighting for the CHCP with the local authority. We've got the CHCP. Yeah. My child's now getting support.
Yeah.
He's come home upset because it wasn't followed.
Yeah.
And the school would look through and go, oh, yeah, we had someone come in. We forgot to give them that file. We forgot to do this. It's not saying, yeah, we completely screwed up. Please sue us.
Yeah, no, God, no.
But that's kind of if you say sorry, it's what people think they're admitting.
Yeah.
But basically what you realise is going, I am so sorry. I can see actually, yeah, he had a bad day.
Yeah.
That's come home. That's affected your home life.
Yeah.
Or we slipped up. Why?
Which is going to happen,
isn't it? Why did you slip up? Because something else was happening.
Yeah.
And the head teacher wasn't on site. We had something else. It's no one's fault.
No.
It's one of these things that happened. But by saying you're sorry is such an important thing because you're basically saying, it's like if you said, oh, my dad died. If I say, oh, I'm so sorry, it's not mess. I'm saying I killed him.
No, absolutely. It's saying, recognizing.
Oh, God, you must be so. I'm so sorry because you've. It's those sort of things. What does sorry mean? I've learned with my own kids what that really means.
Yeah.
And I've learned why people won't say it.
So that's interesting then, because it makes me then question whether maybe, and again, I work in schools a lot, but I'm not a staff member. So of course, when I go in, I'm not treated as staff, I'm treated as a volunteer, and that's quite right. It's not my business to be in the meetings. It's not my business to know about anyone else's child other than the child that I'm supporting. But it does make you wonder then, doesn't it, if people are aware that they can be fully open and honest? Because I explained, this is a real story, I explained to the mum, teachers are not there because they want loads of money. Teachers are not there because it's an easy job. Teachers are not there because they get 6 weeks holiday. Teachers are there because they genuinely want to educate children. I don't think I've ever met a teacher that doesn't like teaching. Otherwise, they wouldn't do it.
It's not something you go, I couldn't get a job in Tesco, so I became a teacher.
No, exactly right.
It's a choice.
Absolutely. But it sometimes takes kind of that middle person to say, yeah, like you've said, perhaps maybe they've come at it from a perspective of, SLT don't want them to admit any blame. Therefore, they've, rather than apologise, they've ignored it. But then that parent feels unheard or judged or disrespected. Sometimes it just takes that little bit of conversation. Like you said, I can't, this happened. It's a situation that we will try to never happen again. You're saying sorry without saying sorry. You're not admitting blame. But that would make such a difference to so many of the parents that we support.
And also the whole thing with sorry with my kids was, what does sorry mean? It basically meant you didn't intend to. I said, what's the other bit it means? I'll try not to do it again.
Precisely.
So hopefully you won't buy that expensive handbag again.
Yeah, no.
But also, when you know your husband's going out and you're going, I'm not going to drink. I'm not even. It might have been an accident. Yeah, it might have been. But the whole idea of I'm saying sorry is, sometimes kids do stuff to you and it winds you up. It's like, you didn't put your stuff in the dishwasher. Sorry.
Yeah.
Next day, you didn't put your stuff in. Sorry. Well, you're not sorry.
No.
Because you're not changing the action.
Yeah.
You're not changing anything. Sorry would mean I'm not going to do it again. So you're not sorry, are you? They look at me and go, no. Which is quite a blunt, honest conversation.
Yeah.
I said, if you're sorry, you've seen it's upset me. You've seen I've got to do something for you. So
You'd have
sorry
changed
should have changed. But to me, sorry does not infer blame. Yeah?
Yeah.
It might happen sometime because they're late.
Yeah.
Yeah? It happens for whatever reason. It's not a blame, but the sorry means, sorry, yes, I'll try and not let that happen again.
Yeah.
That's, to me, what sorry means. So if the child got put in the rain cloud and that shouldn't have happened, I'm really sorry. Shouldn't have happened. Didn't mean to. It somehow happened. Cool. How can we avoid that again? Cool. We'll make a little tweak. We'll just make sure that more people are aware that actually, if we have supply in, they need to be given this documentation so they're aware of their children in their classroom.
Absolutely.
Just a small, maybe make more people aware.
Absolutely.
It's a small change. It's not blame. It's one of those things.
And again, I think most people, particularly parents to children, particularly those who are like our herbs with a PDA profile, we don't expect perfection because we don't have perfection at home. As a mum, I am exhausted, frazzled and tired, and I make regular mistakes. But we do keep trying and we apologise for those mistakes.
Do you keep making the same mistake? Or is it generally a new one?
Yeah, no, I don't make, I'd make lots of new ones, but no, I don't repeat. Yeah, I don't, I kind of think, that didn't work. Yes, okay.
Because you're saying sorry and you're tweaking your behaviour.
Yeah.
And it's like I say to my kids, I still make mistakes. I try not to make the same mistake twice because I'm not learning
but there are whole new ones to
But as soon as you go, right, don't go that way, I go that way. Oh, yes, that's even worse.
Yeah.
Okay, so I can't go. But that's the sort of thing. It's that sorry and the blame.
Yeah.
And I do think that there are teachers who are overworked.
Oh gosh, absolutely.
Underpaid, put in situations that aren't great.
No. And they don't have the adequate, up-to-date training.
And then you're saying to them, you haven't done this.
Yeah.
And I kind of get why they're not saying sorry.
Yeah. Yeah, because that, again...
Because sorry often then say, I'm sorry, but I had no training. I'm overworked. I need to get my PPA this week. My senior lead telling me... When they start telling you the reasons...
Absolutely.
It's probably not a good thing.
But isn't that the interesting thing? Because, again, if you were to have a teacher and an overworked teacher who's doing a fantastic job and who is not getting the correct support, whether that be from SLT, from council, from funding, whatever, could do with a bit of extra. We could all do with some help. Furthermore, so many teachers now don't have access to regular TAs, or they'll have TAs in the morning, but not in the afternoon. How can a teacher, 1 in 32, and you're going to know percentage-wise that maybe 30% of those children are going to be neurodivergent?
Shall I blow your mind here?
Oh no, go on.
There are no TAs in Scotland.
What, at all?
At all. There are special needs support.
Okay.
But there are no classroom assistants who are just attached to a class.
So the special needs support, are they allocated per child or allocated per need?
I think, I'm not quite sure, but there are lots of classroom assistants who are there to support children with special needs.
I'm with you. Okay.
But you're not going to go into a year 3 class and there'll be a TA and a teacher. There is just a teacher.
Wow.
They also work less hours than teachers in England.
Do they have the same number of class students? Do you know?
Similar.
Are they like in the 30s?
Yeah.
Does it work for them? I know nothing about Scottish education.
And that's
I
the
can't
sort of
weigh
thing,
in.
when we often talk about teachers, we think it's a worldwide problem.
Yeah.
It's England.
Have they got separate fund? Do they have separate funding
It's
things?
all slightly different up there.
Yeah, see, maybe we should have a look.
It's really interesting because they have working time directives.
Right.
So teachers, the school will be empty by 4:30.
Right.
They're not allowed.
Right.
There's all these rules.
So work-life balance is probably better up there than it is here.
A lot better. But what is a different thing we're asking of teachers in England that they're not being asked for in Scotland? That's the thing. So
I can tell you what that is. And this is coming from a negative space from my point of view. So I was a one-to-one TA for 3 years. I absolutely loved my job, and I was blessed to have 3 of the most complex children in that mainstream school, and I'm very proud of that. But the expectations placed upon me, and a lot of them were unspoken. It was a case of, for example, I won't use names for obvious reasons, but one child I was looking after was still not able to read year 4. He had the most severe dyslexia I have ever come across in my entire career. And he needed to stop any kind of phonics work. He needed to use the CVC whole word picture recognition. So we had an online Zoom meeting with the caseworker who said, this is what this child needs. I spent an entire week at home, and am I allowed to say Twinkle on here? Is that okay? So I went on to Twinkle, so I didn't have to design it or anything. I spent a whole weekend, my own printer ink, my own laminating pouches, a whole weekend printing it, and then a whole week cutting it, making sure that the edges weren't sharp because he wasn't able to safeguard himself for that. And I created an entire folder, and we sat and we worked. And in that month, he started to recognize words like the, was, bat, cat, to a point where I could remove the picture and he could still recognize the words. Now, later that term, that same school were advised to opt into a phonics, do you call it like a system, a phonics program?
Approach, yes.
Which I thought was brilliant. It was an excellent phonics approach, but I was told by SLT that my child should not be on what I've made and be on this phonics approach. I had to do as I was told. He never made any more progress. Everything we had done was put in the recycle bin, and he stopped learning. And I brought it up and I moaned, and I was just told I was disruptive as a worker. I was troublemaking. I wasn't a team player. All of a sudden, the things that people had found funny about me in the past, like my sense of humour and my loud laugh, was suddenly a problem. Everything was brought to me as a negative. And that's when my husband helped me and just said, it's time. It's time. And I was done. And that broke my heart. That's how Awesome Archie really got off the ground, because I knew I needed to do what I do. Because who else is going to stand up for a neurodivergent person when even I was so widely misunderstood? You know, Do
you remember when you used to be able to phone up and talk to someone in a company? This is just when I was an adult, you could start it too. But then quite quickly afterwards, call centres came in.
Yeah.
And everything became like a flow chart.
Yes.
Really limited options. Well, this is my problem. Yeah, can't cope with that.
No.
It's this or this. And everything became, and you got really frustrated, didn't you?
Yeah.
And we all hated it. And it was real. And everyone hates this kind of, but it's still happening. Companies more and more are doing this really simplistic view.
Mm.
I kind of think that's the way schools are going.
Yeah.
There are a number of schools who are just going, this is our flow chart. If you don't fit on here, we'll go back to the start and you'll go through until you get, and that sounds like we all have to this phonics approach. Yeah, but it doesn't work for this child. Yeah, that's not in this flow chart.
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter. If your child doesn't fit in the flow chart, they don't fit in.
And I know for a fact, because I was there working in that situation, that pressure had come from Ofsted. Not to buy a certain phonics program, but they had said, we're not particularly happy with the way you're doing your phonics. Have you considered a program? Now, I think that's brilliant because the majority of those students were doing well with that.
I would say that wasn't from Ofsted, their interpretation. The Ofsteds say you should use a thing, but often the fear of Ofsted.
So it was the SLT's fear of a negative, perhaps, I don't know, tick or whatever you call it.
Yeah, it's like if there was a spider in your room when you're trying to read a book,
yeah,
and you described that spider to me, it would probably be 50% bigger.
Yeah.
Scarier.
Yes.
It was definitely looking at you.
Okay.
And salivating.
Yeah.
It's that sort of thing. What it actually was and what you heard or saw or perceived is different. And I find with Ofsted, I'm not saying Ofsted are great or bad. I'm not going to go into. I don't have a problem with them. But over years, I see people do knee-jerk reactions. They overcompensate.
So perhaps that's what happened in our case.
Where if you actually asked Ofsted, should we do that? They're like, yeah, you're doing the right thing. Ofsted would say what you were doing was the right thing because it's effective.
He was having actual progress for the first time because I looked back, I spent time, I went over his back history. I went over his work. I went to previous teachers and
that's when you do the case studies, which say, why are you doing this? Because of this, this, this.
Yeah, absolutely.
Great. So you know why that doesn't work.
Yeah.
You know why this is working. And you've got perfect. Ofsted will be happy with that.
Yeah. And removing Ofsted, removing teachers, what I wanted to do was make sure that child could read. I don't care if I have to give him a fortnight manual. I wouldn't have done that because it wouldn't have been age appropriate. But my point is, it shouldn't matter how someone gets there or how they get to an end point. If they're making progress, that means you're a good teacher. You're a good supporter.
But there is this thing, I think, with Matts coming in. There are some amazing Matts. And I talk to some amazing Matts. I know people like Simon.
Yeah. Well, he is.
Lisa and various others. Amazing.
Yeah,
I can mention
something else.
But there are other trusts where it's conformity. And I hear of really horrible things, which I won't go into.
Right.
Where it's teach by numbers and these flowcharts are trust-wide and you just have to follow this flowchart.
Yeah. And what happens to the kids, though, that when they can't, either meet the grade or meet the behaviour expectation? Like, what does that, is that when they would expel that child then?
Persistent disruptive behaviour is, I believe, the highest cause of exclusions.
Right.
And what is persistent disruptive behaviour? Not doing what I want you to do.
Yeah, which, when my Archie's fidgeting, seeing as he's got Tourette's, it's not really his fault, is it?
I'd probably say your laugh would be considered persistent disruptive behaviour.
Yeah, how very dare you?
That sort of thing, just when you're not doing the right thing, it becomes that. So there are some, you look into stats and exclusions aren't in huge numbers of schools. So I'm going to wrap this podcast up.
Yeah,
I know
absolutely.
you and me can keep talking, and I'm sure when I turn off the recording, we will probably keep talking as well.
Oh, yes.
So really enjoyed today. Really enjoyed podcasting with you.
Thank you for having me. It's been an absolute joy. And anytime you want me back, if you're brave enough and got enough caffeine, you are, I would love. It's been amazing. Thank you.
You are welcome. As always, I will be sharing Awesome Archie's contact details so you can find out more about the work Rebecca and Archie do. And you'll find the links in the show notes, which you'll find where you listen to the podcast or on the Sendcast website. So thank you for listening to the show. If you aren't following us on social medias, on Twitter, @ the Sendcast, Facebook, the Sendcast, Instagram, the Sendcast, Blue Sky coming, might be the Sendcast, it's coming soon. And also TikTok, Sendcast. We'll see which one people use. We'll go there. The Sendcast is created and produced by us here at B Squared, and we help show the small steps of progress pupils with SEND make, because we know they're making progress. But do you know about Autism Progress? This is our framework for helping profile a pupil's autism and how it impacts them. It is based on certs and looks at communication, social interaction, emotion regulation, and flexible thinking. And Autism Progress also includes a wide range of strategies to help support the pupils. Visit the B Squared website or click on the meeting link in the show notes to book a meeting with me, and I will show you how our software can help you. So thank you for listening. We'll be back next week with another episode of the Sendcast. This is goodbye from me.
And goodbye from me at Awesome Archie. Thanks for listening.
Bye.